look my way, what can I do to make this dream come true? 'Cause if you just knew that I really, really love you, and if you could see my view, we could be together whole life through. 'Cause you got my head in the clouds, I just wanna fly high, fly high. This running mind of mine, baby, if you see the smooth dance floor, and I just wanna dance through the night, this running mind of mine, yeah, I see you look my way. Welcome back to the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. I am your host, Trellis Williams, and we are glad to have you here again, our 7th episode of the 2025-26 season. And at this point in time, we're in the first week of December, right off of Thanksgiving break. You know what that means? We got a big month ahead. December basketball is huge for the season. And we're going to be talking about it here today. We got some scores from last week. We got some stuff to talk about coming up this upcoming week. We also have a very special guest. Coach Paul Russell of the Forerunners boys basketball team has been doing very well. They're 6-1 in conference. We're going to talk to him, and then we're going to talk about their team here today. We got a great show for you tonight. The MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show begins right now. I can't hear it. It's no audio. And welcome back. Welcome back to the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. We appreciate you joining us here today. Definitely want to remind you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button right now. Also, like and share with anyone else who'd be interested in MSAHA basketball coverage. And folks, we really do appreciate you. Also, turn those notifications on, because I know I don't probably remind you guys enough. Even if you've subscribed, sometimes you don't see some of the stuff that comes through. Sometimes you don't see some of the stuff that comes through. And so if you turn those notifications on, you won't miss any of our videos. Obviously, our show comes on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. That's when we bring you the show. Today, we got Coach Paul Russell with us that's going to be joining us. But first, we're going to go into some games from this past weekend. First, we had Hattiesburg and Macomb. The Hattiesburg Forerunners taking on the Macomb Gators. In girls, Hattiesburg got the win, 49-12 over the Macomb Lady Gators. Now, this was a game that was not a super big surprise in terms of, Hattiesburg winning the ball game, but the margins were big, and they were able to beat the Lady Gators by 37 points. So a big win there. They're able to stop Macomb pretty well as well. And they did this on the road against in Summit against the Gators. Hattiesburg getting that win there, 49-12. Moving on to boys action, we see Hattiesburg getting the win over Macomb on the boys as well, 61-38. Now, these two teams had already played. Hattiesburg had won that ball game by 12 points, 63-51. So this time they win it in more dominating fashion. Now, Hattiesburg in a position right now where their last conference game or their two conference games ago for them, or their last conference game had been against the Muddy River Counselors, their first loss of the season in conference. And so they're able to bounce back real nicely, and they're going to get another win here that we're going to talk about in just a little bit. But Hattiesburg beats Macomb 61-38. Macomb's a quality opponent, and the Forerunners able to get the win there. Now we look at some more Macomb action. They host PCA on Monday. They did. PCA gets the win, 65-50. Obviously, PCA is only boys, so this is only a boys game. PCA Paladins getting the win over Macomb, 65-50. And look, we just looked at a Hattiesburg score where they beat Macomb by 23, 61-38, and then we see here PCA outlasting Macomb 65-50. So interesting there. Macomb shows some good, good competition there, taking on PCA. You always wonder how teams come out of the Thanksgiving break. I know that Hattiesburg and Laurel, they both participated in a Thanksgiving tournament, so they're able to play a little basketball last week. Also, Macomb, they came back and played Hattiesburg that day. They're able to get a little bit in rhythm. They played PCA there. 65-50 ball game win for the Paladins. Now, look, we're going to talk about the standings a little later on, but PCA, their one loss being to Muddy River. Hattiesburg, one loss to Muddy River. Neither one of those teams, Hattiesburg, PCA, aren't going to play each other until December 22nd. So it'll be interesting to see how these teams go about their season until that point. Right now, it appears that you have a top four that consists of Muddy River, PCA, Hattiesburg, and Jackson, but that's to be seen. And we're going to talk a little Meridian later on. There's some unfortunate news there that we'll get to later on about the Meridian Flyers boys team, but we see PCA beats Macomb 65-50. Then we see in some girls action, Laurel Hattiesburg took each other on in Hattiesburg. Laurel Lady Nighthawks get the win over Hattiesburg. Their first game against one of the top teams in the conference, and they do get the win, but they win by 18. It was 39-21, so they do, listen, for all intents and purposes, Hattiesburg only scored 21 points. They struggled to score against Laurel. But this was a closer game than a lot of us probably were expecting here. I mean, if we're just being straight up, this is the defending champions. This is the Laurel Lady Nighthawks. They do get the win, though, and they handle them, and they defend very well. So, obviously, defensively, Laurel's looking pretty good, but Hattiesburg able to hold them as well. So, Hattiesburg did a good job defensively as well, but Laurel getting the win, staying undefeated in conference there, 39-21 win. Now, looking at the boys' side. Hattiesburg just pours it on. 82 points in the ball game en route to a 33-point victory for the Hattiesburg Forerunners, beating the Laurel Nighthawks 82-49. Now, a note to be made about this game. Big game for Hattiesburg. Exciting night for the Forerunners. They've not been able to play at their normal home gym of the last 5 seasons, which is First Presbyterian in Hattiesburg. We used to have the tournament championships there and everything. They haven't been able to play there for the first half of this season or so far this season. They were back in there. Their first home game at First Pres. They were able to host the Laurel Nighthawks. They were able to do it in style, 82-49. Big win for the Forerunners. So they're able to get 2 blowout wins. Beating Macomb by 23. Some would say it's a blowout, some would not, but you win convincingly. This one, blowout, 82-49 win over Laurel. Good job by the Forerunners, and they're looking good in this season. They're a legitimate championship contender, as we've seen. Even in their one loss to the Counselors, who are undefeated in conference, they were extremely competitive in that ball game. They started off up 14-4, as a matter of fact, and so Hattiesburg definitely a team to look at here, and we are going to talk to their coach right now. We got Coach Paul Russell joining us right now from Hattiesburg, and Coach, thank you for joining us. Look, It's been a few years that you've been in the league. Glad to have you on the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show.
Yes, sir. Glad to be here. Sorry it's taken so long, but I'm here.
No, it's all good, Coach. Look, my first question for you. So this team you have here is doing very well right now. You guys are 6-1 in conference. We're going to go through the standings a little later on the show, but you guys have done great, and you're looking good. The team's really clicking well. How do you view this team? How do you view your team right now?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely moving in the right direction. Early in the season, we have, I think, 4 new players on the varsity team that we didn't have last year.
Yep.
We've had a couple of them in the past, and they've kind of skipped around, but we got them back. So, honestly, just trying to figure out who those guys are and how they squeeze in with the guys we lost last year. Their role has been a process, but we're slowly starting to figure that out. We're trending upward overall, I do believe, and those guys are starting to gel, as a unit. So that's definitely good to see in the middle of the season.
That's right. You're just a little over a month into the year. At this point in time, I know that you like what you have to like what you're seeing. I mean, before the season, if you were told that you'd be 6-1 after 7 conference games, you'd have to be pretty pleased with that. But what are some things that you want to? What are some things that you would like to tighten up with your team a little bit? Because I know that the goal here is you want to be able to come out victorious in the end. I know it, Coach. And so, what are some things that you're looking at right now?
Yeah, I think, our offense, we've been scoring the ball well, overall, but, there's definitely moments of inefficiency throughout the game. Some quarters are better than others. Sometimes we forget what we have success with in the middle of the game and it goes away. So I think just pulling together a good 4 quarters, game after game would be good. Communication, I think all teams on defense and offense, communication on the floor is going to have to be better. Something I got to get better at too is, the rotations for the players. We do have a nice bench that, which is not something I've had much of in the past as far as a very deep bench. And we do got some guys that, I got to figure out how to work them in because we got some good ball players on the squad for sure.
Definitely, and I was able to see that up in person there just a couple of weeks ago. Kind of talk about some of those other players that you have on the team in your rotation. Who are some guys that have really stepped up nicely for you? Because look, your son Keller, he's averaging over 20 a game this season. He's really stepping up big. I do believe this is his junior year, if I'm not mistaken.
That's
so
right.
He's really stepping into being like, look, he's been playing up for years. Now this is his level of basketball. Varsity basketball, he's a junior, and he's really stepping up real well. But you have other guys that are stepping up as well. Talk about some of those guys.
Yeah, Keller's been great. I mean, he's obviously being his dad, I see it more gradually throughout the years than I do some of these other guys. But there's been a few guys, to be honest with you, some surprises. I mean, Tafari's not a surprise. He continues to improve. He's a hard worker in the off season, plays basketball constantly. His defense has been elite. Shooting's been elite the last few games as well and has been for most of the season. I hate to just single one out. JP is a new guy we got on our team this year who's really just now starting to gel with the other players and kind of figure out where he fits in. Brings a lot of energy that we definitely need. We got Caden, who's back from a couple years ago, great vocal leadership. Kylan's back from a couple years ago, who's really stepped into a big rebounding role and big defender on the block. So, we like where we're at. I like where all the guys are headed for sure.
Yeah, and so far, you're 6-1. You had some good win. You beat Macomb twice, which is a very competitive team. They gave PCA some problems. They gave the counselors some problems a couple of weeks ago. So you're talking about a very competitive team. You improved the score from the game from the first time to the second time, which is big for you guys. Also, you guys took on the counselors. That's your one conference loss. You haven't played PCA quite yet. What were some things that you took from that loss that you're trying to take for the rest of the season? Because you have them again, and you also have PCA twice, and then you want to be able to compete in that tournament at the end of the year.
Well, obviously, one thing we got to take away is figuring out how to slow down your brother at least a little bit. That'd be nice. Keeping him from scoring 50 would be good, but got to give him and the Muddy River their flowers for that for sure. That was one of those losses, and I would consider it a good loss, if there is such a thing. I'd rather a loss like that happen on the front end of the season where we can be humbled and kind of really make sure the guys know that there's work to be done and we're not where we want to be yet. And since that game, we've won 6 in a row. We've shot the ball better, we've moved the ball better. So, always be improving. Muddy River's obviously a good team, and all of us have our concerns about that and overcoming them because they're on top and we want to be on top. But we'll just keep plugging away and watching film and see what we can do to continue to get better.
For sure, and that's well noted that you guys have gone on a winning streak since then, and the way you finished that game was very well, but also the way you started the game. And so this last game you played against Laurel, and I know that that's always just has to be a little bit of an emotional game sometimes because, I mean, as far as rivalries in our conference, Hattiesburg and Laurel's about as big as it gets, you know what I mean?
Sure.
It's pretty close. Everybody kind of knows each other and all that kind of thing. Talk about that a little bit. Able to put in 82 points. You're back at First Presbyterian, which those kind of things people can look over sometimes. But you're back in your gym. Talk about that. Talk about that game.
Yeah, it was great being back at First Presbyterian. We definitely went through a moment before in the preseason where we didn't know if we were going to have a gym to play at all. So, being able to
Yeah.
get back in that gym was obviously huge for us, and being able to play well there especially is good. I think the Laurel game was good. I think one thing the final score is not going to show is how competitive that game was for the majority of the game. We had a big fourth quarter, but up until then, it really could have been anybody's ball game. I know Laurel's record doesn't reflect, that they're in the top echelon of the teams, but I mean, they definitely don't stop fighting for sure. So we got lucky and hit some shots, and some balls bounced our way, and it worked out for us.
Yeah, definitely. And this year's just been a very good year for the league in terms of just competition in the league. I mean, you got a lot of teams that can really compete. Okay, I guess an extra question, Coach. All right, going
Go
back to the
ahead.
Meridian game. Going back to the Meridian game. All right, that had to be a big moment for you guys in the season. Okay, it had to be because this Meridian team is a very good team. We all know it. We all know how dangerous they are in the way that they shoot the basketball. I mean, the way they shoot the basketball, and they have some height on their team as well. Special, they can do some damage. But you guys were able to beat them by over 20 points on the road. How big was that for your team, confidence-wise?
It felt good. I mean, going into that game, I think y'all had played them, and you know how it is. You watch as much film as you can. That was about all we had
Yeah,
at the time.
that's right.
So, y'all barely overcoming them and beating them. You kind of we knew we were going in with a team that could shoot for sure, and just watching what Cooper and those guys have done since then. Before we played them, they shot the ball really well. So. Came in with a game plan to try to slow them down and cross their fingers that they missed some shots and we made some. And, again, it worked out for us. But, that's, you never know. I know I hear other coaches say this a good bit, but, even going to that game, going back to Laurel, I mean, it's Hattiesburg Laurel. It's everybody's amped up for it. And yeah, the record shows that we should win that game handily, but middle of that game, I wasn't so sure that was going to happen. So, that's the way
Yep.
it is playing a lot of teams in this conference, and that's why it's so much fun.
That's right, and you have to play the game. So, and then the last question for you. So, as far as the goals for this season, Coach, you've had a lot. You've had teams. You've coached this team for 5 years. This is your fifth season coaching this team, and you've had some good teams in 2023. You guys had a good team. You had Bradley Kelly on your team. You had Michael Barnes. I mean, those guys were good. You
Yeah,
had so you've had some teams that really could compete, but you always had guys graduating out just little by little at a time every year. It seems
that's
like
right.
you have a team that's a little closer to similar age, and you might even be able to have another year with a lot of those guys. Talk about that. What are your goals from this season and even moving forward into the future?
Yeah, I mean, our goals for this year is really the same as they are every year, right? I mean, compete at a high level and try to win a championship, for the Forerunners. So, I definitely see this team as uh, being a possibility.
Yep,
With the guys that we have, the new guys that we have coming on. And I think we're just going to have to, we're excited to go to Monroe this weekend, continue getting better, continue
that's right.
practicing and moving forward, tightening things up. I don't see any reason we can't compete for a championship, when it comes February. So we're excited looking for that coming up.
And Coach, you guys definitely have a lot of strengths that can really serve you guys well. Coach, I really appreciate you joining the show.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Definitely, and that was Coach Paul Russell of the Hattiesburg Forerunners. And just like he mentioned, a few of the teams in our league will be heading to Monroe for the Tri-State Classic, which will be a competition between homeschool teams from Mississippi, Arkansas, and Louisiana. Will be played in Monroe, Louisiana, this upcoming weekend, which will be a nice time to kind of see our teams compete a little bit there. But definitely very happy, very glad to have Coach Paul Russell on the show with us. His team is dangerous. And I don't know how many of you guys saw the Muddy River Hattiesburg game. It was a crazy game. I mean, it started off, Hattiesburg was hot at the beginning, and the counselors were able to come back. But it was really a good competitive ball game, and I think we're going to see a lot of good stuff this year. from that Forerunners team. So we appreciate him joining us. Definitely want to thank our sponsor, which is Take One Media, the official marketing agency of the TSJW Network. If you are a business owner or an entrepreneur, you're trying to grow your business, if you want to scale, you should go and talk with Take One Media. And you can do that through this link, takeonemedia.com/TSJW, takeonemedia.com/TSJW. Take One Media is the official marketing agency of the TSJW Network. So, folks, we got more games to talk about from the upcoming week here, and we're going to hop into it. We will see a matchup tomorrow, which will be Jackson against Scott County. That game will be in Harperville, Mississippi, where Scott County will host Jackson. Now, you know, I'll tell you this, the victors last time beat Scott County 91-11. That was something else. So we'll see these two teams play again in Harperville. Those Scott County guys still trying to work their way through. Just kind of a small team, but they can play, get their shots up, and if they're able to hit those, they're able to hit some shots there. But see this Victors team who's been doing very well this season. The Victors are 5-1 in conference. We'll talk about them a little bit more later on. As a matter of fact, we'll talk about them a little bit more right now. December 9th. On Tuesday, we'll see Jackson again as they take on Meridian on the road. Now, unfortunately, I hate to break this to you, but Cooper Franklin of the Meridian Flyers, their leading scorer, senior player for them, he's out. He hurt his ankle, so he's going to be out for a little bit. The word that I'm hearing is that he should be back in January. And so we're definitely praying for a quick recovery for him because we want to see all these guys in the league competing and doing very well. That's what we really want to see. Okay, we want to see everybody healthy and doing well. And Cooper's one of our great players in the league, and we want to see him back out on that floor as quickly as possible, but healthy. So Cooper, definitely get healthy there. So if we talk about this Meridian team, so you'll have Cooper Franklin out, so definitely gives the Victors the edge there. I mean, that's one of the Flyers' main players. The Flyers don't really play a deep rotation, so that's definitely going to affect them for sure. I mean, obviously it would affect them anyway, but it's going to affect them a lot given that they don't play as deep of a rotation. But what Meridian's trying to do is they're trying to get some wins, trying to continue to get better, get tight, because the thing is that tournament's going to come around, and the thing is that, single elimination. So it really doesn't matter what happened during the season, really. Their seed can be low, and Meridian's probably not going to get a very high seed just because they've lost a good few conference games already. And then now without Cooper Franklin, it just seems like it would add to it. But all they have to do is just, win 3 games in a row, win 3 or 4 games in a row. I think it's 3 games in a row. And they'll be champions. And if they're able to string them together, that would be real big for them. Be their first championship ever in their history of any kind for the Meridian Flyers. And they've been in this league as long as anybody, really, 15 years for them. So that'd be big for Meridian. Something that's still in the works, still a possibility. And so, they just need to continue to focus on moving one step forward. But I would definitely give the Victors the edge in this basketball game, even though it's in Hickory, just without Cooper playing. But we'll see what happens. Jackson, they have 1 loss, and that's to PCA. They have not played Muddy River yet. They haven't played Hattiesburg yet either. So they played Macomb. They beat them. So we'll have to see how Jackson's doing. They did beat Meridian early in the season, first game of the year, 62-60. So it'll be interesting to see kind of where these teams are right here. So that'll be Jackson and Meridian. That will be on Tuesday. Then also on Tuesday, we've got Laurel and Muddy River taking each other on at Hines B. Hall in Raymond. First, let's talk girls. So, let's go talk boys first, because girls will be the game of the week, actually, because it'll be a battle of top 2 seeds. But I'll tell you what's interesting about this. So the boys' game, Laurel's always been a team from Muddy River that's, been competitive with them. I mean, even last year, Laurel was the 3 seed, and last year for the Counselors, they were able to win a lot of games by a lot of points, But Laurel, both times, the games, they were in the teens. The difference in the game was in the teens both times. And so the thing is that you're talking about Laurel's always been a team that's been able to kind of stick with the counselors just a little bit. We'll see what happens this time. Laurel's kind of struggling a little bit. They're 2-6 in conference. But we talked to Coach Russell of the Forerunners, and he was telling us that, listen, he wasn't so, the final score looks like it was easy, but he wasn't so confident in the middle of the game. And so, we'll see how Laurel does there. Muddy River will have, are the favorites, but especially it being at B Hall, but we'll have to see what happens in that ball game. So we'll see Laurel and Muddy River, the first time these two teams have played. And then we talk girls. Now, this is number 1 versus number 2. Now, really, Muddy River is technically number 2. Laurel is number 1 because Laurel's played more conference games. They are 5-0 in conference. Muddy River is 4-0 in conference. But this is basically number 1 versus number 2. Whoever wins this game is in the driver's seat in the league. And so it's a huge game. And for the counselors girls, it is really big because they've never beaten Laurel before, ever. And if you want to take that next step, which the goal for the counselors girls is to win the championship, you got to go through the champions, which are those Laurel Lady Nighthawks. They're going to be going to B Hall. And, Laurel's, they've had a lot of success at B Hall over the years for their girls. And so they're looking to continue that this year, but the counselors wanting to pull off the big win there. That'll be a fun one. Lord willing, we'll be bringing that to you right here on the TSJW Network YouTube channel, live on Counselors TV, where the counselors will host Laurel in that ball game. So now let's look at the standings. We'll start off by looking at these girls' standings. We were just talking about this just now. Laurel number 1, 5-0 in conference. Then you get Muddy River at 4-0. Hattiesburg sitting at 5-2. It appears that Hattiesburg is most likely going to be the 3 seed. There's a good difference between them and Macomb. There's also a good difference between them and Laurel and Muddy River at this point in time. So it just seems like that they're at that 3 spot. Macomb seems like they're at the 4. Need to fix that standings graphic to where it says 4 instead of both of them at 3 because they're not at 3. But anyway. And then Meridian and Scott County still looking for their first conference win. Now, looking at these boys' standings here, as we look at them, we see Muddy River at the top with a 5-0 conference record. They are undefeated in conference. Then you see Hattiesburg. We were just talking about them. They're 6-1 in conference right now. They have been looking pretty good. Followed up by Jackson, 5-1. Jackson's going to be playing tomorrow. They will be playing on Tuesday, rather. They will be playing tomorrow against Scott County. They'll also be playing on Tuesday against Meridian, so they have an opportunity to make their record even better. PCA coming off that win against Macomb, they're 4-1 in conference. Of course, PCA is a team that everybody has to look out for. It'll be interesting to see, So, looking at these standings, you see Jackson is above PCA. It's only because of the amount of wins. Obviously, head-to-head, PCA's got that over Jackson. At the end of the year, it'll balance out with how many games teams have played. Tupelo still 2-2 in conference. Haven't played a conference game in a little while. Meridian. And then you got Macomb, Laurel, both tied at 2-6. And then Scott County rounding it out. And those are our standings for the boys. Folks, we appreciate you joining us. This is the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. We appreciate all of you who watch every week. Our shows come on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Here on the TSJW Network YouTube channel, we'll be bringing you some games. We'll have some Counselors TV coverage of the Muddy River Counselors at the Tri-State Classic in Monroe. And then coming up the next week, we'll have some more games for you as well. But listen, December, a big month that greatly affects the standings and the seedings and how this will end up and where these teams will end up in the tournament and what their path will be for the MSAHA crown. Folks, we appreciate you joining us. I really appreciate Nettie Williams on production. She makes it all happen here on the MSAHA Basketball Weekly Show. I'm your host, Trellis Williams, and until next time, we out.